Hey, this ain't a drill. Only time I plan is on the field. And when I'm on the field, no, I got mad skills. And you know we bout to eat this a fast meal. Y'all gotta pay for this heat like a gas bill. We keep on coming back, so yeah, they mad still. 716 make them pay me some bad bills. Red, white, and blue like Superman, so you know we eating at the Super Bowl. Kill the competition, set up the funeral. Josh Allen catching all the shots you go for. We callin' blitz. Ready to start, we ain't calling no quits. I'm the #1 draft pick. A lot of y'all talk, but I ain't hearing it. Only listen to Keyshawn and him. Talk about the Bills, dominating on the field. All our players got them skills. Buffalo gon' make a kill when we talk about the Bills. Dominating on the field, and our players got them skills. Buffalo gon' make a kill.
I think it really just happened. All right, nobody's in here right now, so it doesn't matter yet. But we got to get that figured out because sound is supposed to be coming. Yeah, it's coming from the wrong place. That's why. There we go. All right, let's try that again. We're going to try it again.
Hey, this ain't a drill. Only time I plan is on the field. And when I'm on the field, no, I got mad skills. And you know we bout to eat this a fast meal. Y'all gotta pay for this heat like a gas bill. We keep on coming back, so yeah, they mad still. 716 make them pay me some bad bills. Red, white, and blue like Superman, so you know we eating at the Super Bowl. Kill the competition, set up the funeral. Josh Allen catching all the shots you go for. We callin' blitz. Ready to start, we ain't calling no quits. I'm the #1 draft pick. A lot of y'all talk, but I ain't hearing it. Only listen to Keyshawn and him. Talk about the Bills, dominating on the field. All our players got them skills. Buffalo gon' make a kill when we talk about the Bills. Dominating on the field, and our players got them skills. Buffalo gon' make a kill.
What's going on? Welcome back to another live episode of the Post Podium Podcast, home of the all truth, no sodium takes. I am your co-host, Aramis. Yep. My bro ain't here. So, that means y'all stuck with me tonight. But we're going to have some great conversations. Hopefully we get a lot of good comments in here. But to start things off, I got some very interesting news that I think initiates a pretty cool conversation to start the show. So hey, thank you, Albert. Appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that. Not my division yet. You mean conference? Maybe. I don't know. We got a bunch of comments poured in. I'll get to those, I promise. But let me start off with this, right? Because I just got this news in yesterday, and I broke this to our members in our Discord chat last night, I believe, right? So I heard from a source, I'll just say connected to the team, right? And it turns out that Max Hairston is still having issues picking up the playbook. And when I heard this, it wasn't a shock from the standpoint of I've been telling people this whole time that that's going to be something that's difficult for him to begin with. But I think when you think about where we are now and what Sean McDermott has said in the press conference, Key brought this up too. He said, he pointed out what Sean said in terms of, the timetable for Max Hairston's return, saying he may or may not return this year, right? And I think for a lot of people hearing may or may not, it's like, yo, this is a first round pick. What are we doing? If this guy is not going to come and play, and he's a cultural fit, we know he's a super athletic type of corner. He's got the size. And from what we know of his history in college, he's not really a handsy guy, and he doesn't really get burned all like that, like Elam did, or Elam was in training camp. And the what's going on, Tommy? And the biggest thing that people were really saying about Hairston in training camp was he was just up and down. He would have good days and bad days, but there was no real consensus sentiment on his progress, across the board, right? One way or the other, whether it was all good or all bad. Like, nobody was saying it's all bad, and there was nobody saying it's all good. It was everybody was kind of like, it's a roller coaster right now. And we all bought that as, all right, that means, the same thing as it means for every other rookie. They're all going to be on roller coasters. They're all going to have their good their good moments and their bad moments. And that's just to be expected, right? But hearing that Hairston at this point is having trouble picking up the playbook, that's a little disheartening. And I think overall, that's probably why Sean McDermott is saying what he's saying in terms of may or may not come back, because you got to keep in mind, not only is it difficult for rookies to get on the field in general, like just in general during the regular season, it's hard for them to get significant playing time, right? In order to kind of get the reps that help them to develop and become as great as we want them to be. Now, I get it. There's going to be people saying, all the different examples of times that, rookies have come in. I still maintain the case with, guys like Trey White and Deion Dawkins, that those, and even the Keon Colemans of the world, that those were guys that were filling positions of great need at that point, right? And for the DB room, I think from Sean's perspective, it's not a huge need right now, right? If you look at it, he's got 5 healthy corners, right? So we're counting Benford, Trey White, Dorian Strong, Cam Lewis, and Jamarcus Ingram, right? That's 5 right there. And all of those guys, aside from Dorian Strong, have multiple years of experience in this defense. So it's not a situation where I think Sean is panicking saying, man, I got to hurry up and get my rookie cornerback in here to possibly make some mistakes, especially if he's not picking up the playbook fast enough. Now, here's the thing the Bills could do in that instance. They could, Oh, okay. Yep. I'll say that part. Okay. Invisible Key is telling me to make sure that I switch the cameras from time to time and make sure that I get him in the show too. So we'll be doing that regularly. What I think this does for I'm an a-hole, I know. I think what this does for Sean is it kind of makes it easy on him in terms of expectations for the rookie, because he's basically got the option now of, if I want him to sit just because I'm not 1,000,000% comfortable with what I'm seeing him do on the practice field, I have the excuse of, well, the injury is kind of weird, so we're bringing him back slowly and all that kind of stuff. And people are seeing him practice, right? But I equate this situation to the situation with Curtis Samuel. Somebody asked Keon Coleman about Curtis Samuel, and his answer was, "Yeah, we see him in the locker room, and he's out there working." And so it's not like they're how can I put this? It's not like they're how can I say this? It's not like they're trying to hide it, but they're also not trying to put it on blast either. And even if somebody asks questions about it, it's not such a major deal or such a huge need at this time where there has to be pressure behind the questions, I think is the best way to put it, right? So what I mean by that is, again, with the Hairston situation, they don't really need him on the field. With the Curtis Samuel situation, they could easily say, hey, listen, we're putting up 30 points a game without Curtis Samuel right now. What do you want? Right? And I think for that situation, it's more about the money than anything else, and the additional moves that would be there for us to make at safety if we had that money. So back to the Hairston situation, I do think that my prediction is going to stand true in terms of, I don't think we're going to see much of Hairston at all this year. The one thing I was going to say before Keys interrupted me was I'm attacking him hard tonight, I know. Was the coaches, and by coaches I mean Bobby Babich and Sean McDermott, they do have the ability to make the defense simple for Hairston. Not necessarily easy, but just make it simple for him, right? And the idea is, I was having this conversation with Damaris, and he said one of the ways that teams can make things easier for a player, if they're not picking up the plays, and is they can easily say to the safety, Taylor Rapp, or well, it would have to be Taylor Rapp at that point. They could say to Taylor Rapp, hey, make sure he knows what he's doing on the field, right? And they could even have Jordan Poyer on the sideline. I'm looking at Laura's comment. They could even have Jordan Poyer on the sideline calling things out, in whatever terminology they have too, just to kind of make sure, because he's gonna. Well, I guess it depends on what side the Bills are on, to whether or not Jordan Poyer will be able to have any kind of effect, really, because the Bills don't typically, move their corners around to match with receivers. So, look, at the end of the day, even if they did try to simplify things for Hairston on the field, I'm still not sure I want Rapp being the guy trying to help him out with that. I mean, we had Micah Hyde here in-house last year helping Cole Bishop, and Taylor Rapp was the one on the field with Cole Bishop most of the time when he came back, before he left and when he came back, and it didn't seem like he was helping him a whole lot. And I think there is a difference now, partly with Bishop I'm talking about, partly because Bishop has had a full offseason to kind of get everything under his belt and get comfortable with the offseason process, and get very comfortable with the playbook and whatever changes are there from last year. I'm sure the terminology is almost exactly the same, and maybe a few wrinkles here and there. And most teams just kind of build on top of things that they've done in previous seasons. But again, it's not like we're seeing Cole Bishop come in here and flip the field upside down with his awesome gameplay after a season of playing next to Taylor Rapp, right? So I'm just kind of thinking about this situation for Max Hairston. Like, even if he does get on the field, we know from Brandon Beane he doesn't play at 4.2 speed, and I've made the case, in my opinion, very strongly that Hairston's gameplay, or his ability to execute the plays called, is going to be more reliant on his athleticism than the way he thinks the game. And I think it's going to be that way for years with this guy. He's got the reputation for things like this, not picking up the playbook as fast as one would hope. You know what I'm saying? And at this point, it's not even hope. It's most of the guys on the team got it, and we're still looking at him like, dude, especially because of the fact that he's been injured and all he's had is time. Because that's the other part of this. All he's had is time to just sit there and heal and go through the playbook and make phone calls and ask questions and call coaches and video conference with coaches to go through these things, and he still ain't got it. That's a problem. That's a problem, but that's exactly in line with everything that I've been reporting about this guy. And again, I'm not saying that he can't come in and still make an impact on the field. They can do some things to make his job easy, but this is not what I want for my first round pick at corner, especially not after seeing what we've seen from some of the other corners that have come in as rookies and played extremely well as first round picks, even late picks, right? Because let's be real, Marlon Humphrey wasn't a early first round pick. He was a late first round pick. Matter of fact, okay, good. It didn't die. It's about to die though, so I might have to reach for my power cord in a second here. But where was Marlon Humphrey? Because Marlon Humphrey, I think he's still in Baltimore, right? But just to give you guys an example, before you destroy me in the chat, of a guy that was drafted in late in the first round. Where was Marlon Humphrey drafted? Okay, 16th overall pick, mid-round pick. And look, the Bills easily could have traded it into the middle of the first round this year, and giving up a guy like AJ Epinesa or Matt Milano or a Curtis Samuel. We've had people to work with, right? We could have gone as far as trading Elam last year for, I don't know, a third or fourth round pick with the idea that we're going to use that pick to help move up into the middle of the first round of the draft this year. So all I'm saying is two things, actually. I think we're going to have to, we don't have a choice. We're going to have to be patient with our expectations of Max Hairston. And I guess the hope would be is he comes along slowly, but we get the boom from him, right? My concern with that first point would be, who else have we really seen that from a Bills draft pick aside from Josh Allen, right? Who have we seen? And I'll ask this in the chat if you guys have any examples you want to tell me about. Who's an example of a first round? I don't want to restrict it to that, but who's a guy that we drafted that came in and was like, you know what, he's going to need a little bit of time to develop, but when he does, though, he gonna be a beast, right? It don't have to be first round pick, Cook only. Yeah, he took 2 years. I mean, for Cook, it wasn't a lot that he needed to change, but man, this year specifically is a stark difference from how he started, for sure. Thank you for that, Kev. Let me plug this in. Spencer Brown. What was he? I mean, Key liked him early on. I wasn't a huge fan, but watching him, he didn't really hurt the team either. I'm not sure if I see him as being elite now, right? When I watch the tape, I don't see him get challenged very much, especially in our division. I'm not saying he's bad, but I think he might be getting some of the same credit that helped Deion Dawkins to get to the status where he is now too. With Spencer Brown being a 6'8" guy and being one of the most athletic tackles in the entire NFL, I think some of that stuff plays into it. But I just haven't seen anything on tape where it's like, oh my God, like he's so technically sound and nobody's getting by this guy. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference to me between I'll even use a young guy, the Andrew Thomases of the world, where, even if a guy is getting some push, it's not pushed directly into the quarterback. It's pushed past the quarterback. Like you going away, whether you trying to get through me or around me, either way, you going away from my guy. Jordan Mailata, like he's not getting pushed in that way. He's not allowing, pressures all like that. Right. And I don't know. I think it's a good example from the standpoint of a guy that was a later round pick that came in and got the bag and is an above average player. But realistically, I think injuries were the thing holding him back at the beginning. It wasn't him being bad. I think he's the same guy. He's just got a lot more experience under his belt. That would be my main argument for Spencer Brown. I'm still standing on right now. Tremaine Edmonds. See, Tremaine Edmonds is weird because the Bears use him slightly differently than how he was used here. But the difference is their defensive line and the way that they defend the run is very different. Like Tremaine Edmonds is free in the run and the pass, right? Whereas here he was just free in the pass. But I guess that would be an example too. Let me plug this charger in really quick so I don't lose everything I got on this laptop, and then I want to get to these comments here. First one. I gotta scroll up. All right, I'm thinking about a million things at the same time. Give me 2 seconds. All right, so let's see what we got here. Actually, while I do this, Key has something he wants to say. All right, you good? Cool. All right. Let's go from the top here. Independent Aquaman says, I just bet my parlay for this weekend that your Bills will unluckily lose. I instead hope your team meets against my Lions in the Super Bowl. Man, listen, after seeing the Lions play against the Ravens, I can't tell if that was something that the Lions can hold consistently or if they were just taking advantage of some good matchups. And the reason I say that is you had a couple of bad games to start the season. But damn, you look pretty good against the Ravens. So I definitely have. I've always had respect for the Lions. Obviously, I was a big fan of Ben Johnson when he was there. And I like a lot of the pieces you got in Detroit there. But as far as your point of unluckily losing, look, I spent a little bit of time fighting sleep watching the first couple of games of the Saints season, and let me say this. You know what? I'll give you some notes while I'm at it here too. Okay. So, does anybody know who the Saints defensive coordinator is? I'll wait. Can we trade for Dan Campbell? No. The Saints defensive coordinator is Brandon Staley. Okay. Now, for those of you who only know Brandon Staley as the head coach of the LA Chargers, let's go back to 2020 when he was the defensive coordinator of the Rams. And that defense was number 1 overall in the NFL. So that's something that might lean into Aquaman's is that his name? I want to make sure I say it right. Yep, Aquaman's comment of unluckily losing, because I'm watching the tape and I'm honestly looking at this team like they are sneakily dangerous, right? Not from the standpoint of, you know, they could sneak one by the Bills, because I think when it really comes down to it, the Bills just have too much to throw at the Saints defensively, and the quite frankly, the pieces of the Saints defense is not built out in the way that I think fits what Brandon Staley loves to do. You know, don't get me wrong, they got a good linebacking core. Their corners, well, Kool-Aid is pretty good, and Alante Taylor is not bad. They got Justin Reed over from the Chiefs. He's decent. I don't know much about the other safety they got there. And they still have Cam Jordan and Granderson on the defensive line there. They've switched to a 3-4 now, which I think helps in run defense a little bit, especially setting the edge, because now you got Granderson and Cam Jordan a little bit further on the outside there. So, you know, my worry is the Bills underestimating a team like this. Do I think that's going to happen? No, probably not. But again, I don't think this is going to be a blowout like people think it is. And offensively, you got Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator. I know officially it says Doug Nussmeier is their offensive coordinator, but all Doug Nussmeier has done is be a quarterback coach in most of the places that Kellen Moore was. And like earlier, before Kellen Moore became an offensive coordinator, Nussmeier was doing some other stuff too. So, this is Kellen Moore's show on offense. And I got to be honest, I watched the Saints play against the 49ers defense, and the 49ers defense is no walk in the park, right? And, you know, watching what Kellen Moore does schematically, man, if they can get their run game going, right? Because they do both. They're strong. Their offensive line is strong in both power run blocking and outside zone. You might see some inside zone stuff here and there too, and that, you know, a lot of that is what fits Kamara the most as a running back. But there's just aspects to both their offense and defense on tape that cause me to say, man, a few defensive mistakes here and there. You know, the Saints like to throw the ball down the field, especially with Olave. And Rashid Shaheed being there, you know what I'm saying? Like two guys that you know can easily take it deep. They've got a good tight end, so they have pieces. And then on their defensive side, they're not bad against the run at all, right? And having a guy like Brian Breesy playing that 5 tech outside in that 3-4, he's a great pass rusher as a defensive tackle. But I think he's very underrated in run defense too. Watching him hold the point of attack, I mean, he might have put on a little bit more weight to play in this style of defense. So I'm not sure what that's going to do to his pass rush, but they look good on tape. They look good on tape. I know the Seahawks just dropped 44 on them, but that Seahawks defense is elite. They were elite last year. So, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you're in New Orleans, you're traveling, you know, a decent amount north, and you're I want to say a young team, but you're a team that's fresh into, you know, defensive and offensive schemes that you haven't played very much of in the past, right? So if at all for some of these guys. But all that's to say, I don't want to sleep on these guys at all. I don't think we should. And I apologize for taking forever for one comment. Kev says, just put him in, man. Dog, lock up dog. It will take him a year and a half. I'm sick of this scheme anyway. That's not changing until Sean changes. And we know that. Steve, what's going on? Says, just wait until the team employs the throw at Trey scheme and really exposes this secondary. Good thing we have 2 smart safeties who can cover in space and hit hard. Not a home teammate. Right. That would be nice. That would be nice. Please don't hit your own guys. But yeah, I mean, and that's a real thing. You know what? I'm not banging on Trey as much as I am just banging on the bail technique in general with the corners that we have. The hard part is, in a sense, you don't really have a choice. But, and I say you don't have a choice because the safeties, right? You know, if those corners get beat, it's over. I'm sorry, it's over. What safety do we have that's gonna be able to run with the receiver and also at the same time has the awareness to watch the body language of the receiver to see how close the ball is, or to turn around and track the ball while still running full speed with the receiver? Like, who do we have starting right now that's going to go out there and do that? So, you know, it's a catch-22. It's like you're stuck doing it. I just can't feel bad for the coaches because this is what you chose, right? If all I do is eat, you know, donuts all day, I can't be mad that I'm 400 pounds. It's what I chose, right? So at this point, it becomes, how willing are you to admit your mistake, take your loss, make a change, right? I mean, to me, that's what it comes down to. I don't think it's just Trey White. I mean, I've seen Benford get chewed up a few times, you know, in the first 3 games. So I think it's both guys. I think the secondary is just slow in general. It's got to be one of the slowest secondaries in the NFL in general, but that doesn't mean that they can't do things to put them in the best positions to make big time plays. And I don't want to keep relying on Terrell Bernard when I also have to worry about the obligatory 2 to 3 games per season that he has to miss due to injury. I'd rather know that I can, you know, well, okay, my starting middle linebacker is not in there. I usually get, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks a season from my corners. So that'll come at some point. It doesn't, I just like, that's not a confident thing that I have. Lynn says, so is that Hairston is inept, or is it just McDermott or is it just McDermott far too conservative? It's both. It's both. Steve says, so Beam missed another pick in the first 3 rounds. What's new? Dude plays zone in college and still can't pick up the playbook with Trey there to help. How do we scout like this? Again, when the mindset is attitude over ability, and the mindset is also we're going to go get our guys that fit what we do in the building, right? It's not what we do in the building from a offensive schematic standpoint or a defensive schematic standpoint. It's we're going to go get the guys that fit the family. And if they fit the family, we feel like we can teach them everything they need to know in order to be good, right? It again, as Key, and I'll give him credit, as Key has said before, it is sum of parts. That's the mindset. The issue with that is, and I said this last night, we have not seen sum of parts win a Super Bowl. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think we've ever seen that. Typically with Super Bowl winners, there is one side of the ball that is dominant in some shape or form or fashion, right? For the Giants, they didn't have an immaculate secondary. They had quite possibly one of the best defensive lines of all time. In the 2 Super Bowls that they won against the Patriots, beating what people regard now as the best team of all time in the NFL right now. Just from a standpoint of when, how many Super Bowls they won. But that's the approach that we've seen consistently win in the NFL, right? We've seen the Eagles come with the best offensive line and the best defensive line and rookie corners. you know what I'm saying? And their linebacking core isn't even that great, to be perfectly honest. Like Zach Bond he's a good piece, but in the Super Bowl, he benefits from, at the time, the best defensive line in the NFL. So there has to be something that you do that is the best in the NFL. It doesn't have to be number one overall defense, and you have to have Ray Lewis's at every single position. That's not what I'm saying. You don't have to have Terrell Owens's at every position. You don't have to have Josh Allen's at every position. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there has to be something other than good quarterback play that you do that's elite, right? You can point to the Ravens, the Ravens Super Bowl, both times, really elite defense, all-time great defense, pretty good quarterback play, right? Their weapons weren't, completely unstoppable. Anquan Bolden was a number 1 receiver, but he wasn't like, putting up Jamar Chase numbers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Jamal Lewis wasn't putting up LaDainian Tomlinson numbers. He was a good back when they won it in 2000. But that was a defense that people talk about in the story of the entire NFL of how great it was, right? And freaking Trent Dilfer, was it Trent Dilfer? I think it was Trent Dilfer that was their quarterback. So, like, it again, examples of how it doesn't have to be, across the board 100% elite players everywhere. You just got to be elite at something. And right now, it seems like this sum of parts thing really only points to Josh Allen being the guy that is elite beyond the shadow of a doubt, without having to, analyze it from a secondary standpoint and go through the stats and figure out, is he really? No, it's consensus. We know he's the guy, right? But what else? What else do we have that's elite at a Josh Allen level on defense, right? Because essentially, if that's the case, then Josh Allen is always going to be doing it by himself. Trent Dilfer didn't do it by himself. Trent Dilfer's not elite. The defense didn't do it by themselves. The offense had an elite run game that year with Jamal Lewis, who, again, even after that season, he wasn't putting up LaDainian Tomlinson numbers. It wasn't like it was Saquon Barkley when he joined the Eagles. He wasn't putting up 2,000 yards like that. He had a good year. And the run game, the offensive line they had was so good that it allowed Jamal Lewis to get through most defenses fairly easily. So they had an elite run game that made it easy for Trent Dilfer, that also made it easy for that defense to be rested and to come onto the field and make plays and give the ball back to the offense. Now go run the ball again so we can rest. That's how it's supposed to work. But it takes you having more than one Josh Allen type of player on your team. You got to have more than one. Either that or you have to have your whole entire defense playing as one and putting up, elite numbers, right? Like if you were playing at the Chargers level last year where they had the number one overall defense, that Josh can win with that. Josh can win with that, right? But even when we had the number one defense in 2021, our defense wasn't playing like that. They weren't playing like the Chargers and not only stopping teams from scoring, but stopping teams from getting yards. We were still giving up a bunch of yards between the 20s with that defense. They were still bad against the run. Chargers weren't bad against the run last year. They were the best run defense and the best pass defense in the league last year. Period. Right? So to me, that's what you need. That's what you need. I'm gonna skip ahead here. What's going on, Nate? Nate says, seems like they don't draft instant impact players, hence the draft develop resign mantra. Yeah. It's a system that's designed to glorify the coach. I'm gonna let that breathe for a minute. I'll say it again. It's a system that is designed to glorify the coach. How can I say that? How can I say that? How can I say that this is a system that's designed to glorify the coach? Well, what do you think sum of parts is? What do you think it means when you got all of these late round draft picks come out to be guys that can contribute to the team? What do you think that means? People are going to look at that and say, well, they draft well, but man, these coaches can develop people too. And that's cool. But again, when have we ever seen that win a Super Bowl? When? I'm still waiting for that to happen. Billy D says greatest show on turf defense was terrible, but offense putting up 35 a game. Exactly. The thing with that Rams defense was they had perhaps some of the most athletically gifted corners. They had such speed at corner, if I remember correctly, at corner on that team. And back then that meant a lot because in that era, there weren't a ton of fast receivers, right? I don't want to, start going through all the averages and all that kind of stuff, but the NFL in general back then was much slower than it is now, right? So when you have that kind of athleticism at corner, and granted, they're going against the Titans who didn't have the fastest of receivers anyway, but they could cover well, right? I remember that specifically. They were you could run on them pretty easily, but that was it Wanstead? Who was running that defense? Who's the defensive coordinator there? I don't want to take the time because I got a bunch of stuff to get to. But yeah, that's another good example there. Miguel, I ain't seen you in a minute, man. What's going on? Says it sounds like you don't think Sean McD can get it done. No. To be clear, Lynn says Ignis Rada. I'm not saying I don't think Sean can get it done. What I'm saying is Sean's got to be willing to change significantly a few of his ways in order to do it, right? And what that basically what I'm trying to get at is he's got to stop trying to make this show all about him. He's got to stop trying to make this show all about, the camaraderie and the culture. Like everything about this team points to what the coaches implement. The way that he runs the team, the way he talks to the players, the way he talks up the culture, the way that the team drafts, the way they talk about draft picks, the way they treat draft picks, all of it points to coach up here, player down here. Any team that has won anything in the NFL knows there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance. The coach doesn't get to be up here right off the bat. He's got to earn that, right? And it doesn't come from taking a team that got misused and switched around, to the wrong positions, in the previous 2 years and putting them back to the way they were when they were a really good defense that could make the playoffs, probably mostly on the defensive play alone anyway, and making the playoffs with that team. That's not how you earn that respect. That respect has to be earned by how you treat the players, how you coach the players, and how you allow the players to be themselves. And it isn't just we allow the players to be themselves from a player-to-player standpoint. It's allow the players to be themselves from a coach-to-player standpoint. So if a guy wants to get out there and celebrate and shake his behind in the end zone, let him do it. He earned it by scoring a daggone touchdown. All it is, act like you've been there stuff, who cares? Who cares? Right? You want the team to have camaraderie, and you're coaching these guys to go meet the player at the ball and pick them up off the grass and doing all this stuff that means nothing towards winning. All that does is it enhances the culture, right? So essentially, Sean McDermott has been running a 9-year experiment trying to see if what he thinks can actually win in the NFL can actually win in the NFL. And it's not from a, let me see if I can. It's from a, I think this is going to do it, and I refuse to accept any other way. Right? So if he would just be willing to just take a step back and say, you know what? We need some more elite players in here. We need some guys to come in and play more of a leadership role in the locker room. I can't be the leader here. The leadership has got to come from inside the locker room, right? I don't need to see myself as a leader off rip. Now, if it ends up being the case that I am the leader, then so be it. But if I end up being a guy that just implements, people's responsibilities and just tells everybody what to do, and Josh Allen and a few other players on the team, lead the thing, then so be it. Get out of the way. Mike Tomlin did it, right? Mike Tomlin's a different animal to begin with because Mike Tomlin can talk to guys in a way that Sean McDermott can't. That's the other issue here, is Sean McDermott is talking to these guys like he's an outsider. He's trying to talk to these guys like he knows he doesn't fit in. He's trying to talk to these guys like he doesn't understand them, right? And this is just from stuff that I've heard that goes on in the building. This is his approach. When you have a guy that already feels like he's an outsider, and all of a sudden you find out that he's talking about himself as being the leader and saying it starts with me. I've got to be the guy to lead these guys in the right direction. It seldomly happens that a self-appointed leader is also the guy that everybody would choose to be the leader. I'll just leave that where it is. Key, what you think? Yep. Exactly. Yep. No, I ain't running solo tonight, Bones. I got Key right here. You right here. Yep. Good point. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Good point, Key. Bone said Key is like the Jamaicans from In Living Color. Only 8 jobs, you lazy. Oh my gosh. This is great. I'm having a great time here. All right, 6:15. So here's the next thing I want to bring up. and you guys let me know what you think about this. How will it feel? I thought about this question, and you know, this is the title of this episode. How will it feel beating bad teams the rest of the season? And you know, this was one of those questions where it's like it's an honor question. You know what I'm saying? uh where's the water? I took it over here. It's on my side. It's on my side. I got your water. No, it's actually right over there. It's behind the TV. You can't see it. I moved it. Kev says, what will happen if we lose due to the defense? That's all right. Let me address this first. That's actually very possible. And that again, that's one of the things that I'm worried about when it comes to playing this team and playing, you know, some of the some of the other, you know, teams that we're going to face is, you know, bad quarterback play, but you know, these are still NFL teams, right? And I still believe in any given Sunday, especially with the way that the Bills have played the Jets and the Dolphins. That is the reason that I'm worried about teams like this. It has nothing to do with, you know, it is how can I say this? It has nothing to do with, you know, the strength of the team, right? It could be an egregiously bad team. We could be playing. Who's the worst team in the NFL right now? We could be playing. Man, who is the worst team in the NFL right now? Is it the Jets? No, can't be the Jets. Who's the worst team in the NFL right now? Titans? Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Titans. Yeah, we could be playing the Titans right now, right? But the fact that this team wants to play things close, not do too much, only do what it takes, kind of just dragging one foot in front of the other. All right, guys, let's go get this win. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to show too much on tape for other teams. We don't want to, you know, risk injuries. All these reasons that sound good for why this team is not absolutely dominating every team they play by 60 when they could. This is why these types of games worry me, because again, for any of you that love to do your own film review, go look at the tape. I'm not saying that the Saints are elite, but they don't look bad. They don't even look as bad as the Dolphins or Jets do. They look like on tape, they're better than those teams, right? For me, that's what creates that nervousness of, man, if you let that team hang around and they're a touchdown down in the fourth quarter and they mess around and throw a deep ball to Shaheed and none of our guys can stay with that dude, or Olave runs a post route and just burns one of our safeties and like, because I saw a lot of that against the 49ers running those deep routes and taking those shots, and they got one off right in the first quarter against the 49ers at home, right? So they know that it will take stuff like that to beat a team like the Bills, and they're coming into this game like most teams would, looking at the Bills as, man, it'd be a feather in our cap if we can go to their house and beat those boys, man. Let them sleep. We'll pay them all the respect. But we're going to take 4 or 5 shots in this game, and we're going to dare them to stop every last one of them, right? I'm not sure the Bills can consistently do that. We'll see. But that makes me really nervous. Lindsay says, if the Bills defense can hold opposing to 20 or less points and the offense scores 30 plus points, that is ideal. Yeah. For me, it's the muscle memory of it all. I can appreciate holding them to 20 and us scoring 30. Obviously, that's always going to win, but if I'm up 31-21 at the start of the fourth, I'm not resting easy. I'm damn sure not resting easy against a team like the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Colts. I'm not resting easy against any of those teams. And I'm not saying rest easy from the standpoint of, sit Josh Allen and put the backups in. Let's not take it that far. I'm saying from the standpoint of we're just not being as aggressive as we were when we were scoring the 31 in that fourth quarter with that 10-point lead. Because we think, if we need to score, we'll score if they score, but let's just hold the lead. Let's play defense and let's trust the process. If they go that route and we're sitting at the start of the fourth quarter, 30-20, man, somebody got to step on the gas. Either kick the driver out the driver's seat and step on the gas, or put a pin in his leg and force him to step on the gas. Somebody got to do something. You know what I'm saying? Billy D says the Washington Generals won one game. Anything is possible. Yeah. Right. Cato says, let's call a spade a spade. Mark Jackson gets stacked for his strong beliefs, but Mick Joke could run this Christians camp and get all the credit. So I would say it like this, Cato. And I think if you took this point with you to any, water cooler talk, you would be right no matter what. I think Sean McDermott is Mark Jackson. I think Mark Jackson came into Golden State and established a culture, a winning culture, a culture that taught them how to win games and win tough games and win close games and stuff like that. But there was a level that he needed to be able to go to in order for the team to win championships that he just couldn't get to. And you saw the difference when Steve Kerr came in, right? They started winning in ways that they had never won in Golden State under Steve Kerr. So I would, from here on out, if I were you, and you don't have to take this, I would make the case that Sean McDermott is Mark Jackson from the standpoint of, and I think, if I understand what you're trying to say correctly, Mark Jackson didn't get away with that in Golden State, but Sean is getting away with it here. You gotta kind of think about the areas too, right? Because first and foremost, California is very liberal, right? So you got to be conscious of that stuff if that's what you're going to permeate. You know what I'm saying? But here, blue collar town, almost a church at every corner in the city. I hate even saying that, but it's almost 100% true. I think that vibe, that mentality translates well here, right? Unfortunately. And that's why he still has his job here. But I really, in my heart of hearts, man, I don't want to fire the guy for the sake of firing the guy. I wish he would just change his ways. If he could just do that, I'd be fine with everything else that he does. Just stop trying to make this about culture. Make it about the players. The NFL has always been about the players. Always been about the players. Always. In college, you can win a lot of games without a great quarterback. In the NFL, you cannot. It's about the players. In the NFL, a quarterback cannot be great without somebody to throw to, or somebody to hand the ball off to, or somebody to block for him. In college, man, listen. we watched Tim Tebow throw to who? Hand the ball off to who? Won a ton of games in college and wasn't even that great in the pros. College is a different monster. We can't, the reason I'm bringing these examples up is I think Sean McDermott he's a college head coach. If he went to college today, he would be one of the top 3 head coaches in college. Like, and I mean, if you gave him the type of team that you know, like if you gave him a few years to scout and catch up to the rest of the college you know, teams, you know, in whatever conference, he would end up being one of the top 3 head coaches in college. Yeah, I think he's good enough to do that, but I think his approach at the pro level is not what it needs to be. So, but yeah, so getting back to how will it feel beating bad teams the rest of the season? So, I just want to go through the schedule really quick. For those of you that don't have it fresh on your minds, okay? So, Saints game this week, Patriots game, Sunday night game next week. Falcons after that, another night game, 7:15. Then we have a 1:00 game against the Panthers. Then we play the Chiefs. That's a challenging game. Okay. Then we play the Dolphins in Miami. It's a 1:00 game. That's going to be later in the year. Not going to be as hot. Probably going to feel like a vacation for the Bills. It's not going to be. It's not going to be 31-21. I know that, right? And then we play the Buccaneers here. Now, the last couple of times we played the Bucs, it's been a tough game. But I'm looking at that game as probably just as challenging as the Chiefs game. I mean, at that point, like Chris Godwin is playing this week, right? So by the time we get to that game, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks from now. By the time we get to that game, Mike Evans should be back. Chris Godwin should be at 100%. Emeka Egbuka should be still healthy, right? And I'm assuming all their weapons will be healthy. Their running backs will be healthy. I know they got some offensive linemen that are out. I'm not sure what the timetable is for those guys, so I won't speak to that. But combine that with what they can do on defense, that's a tough game, right? And then you go Texans, that'll be a cakewalk. They can't move the ball on offense to save their lives. So as long as we can score 16 to 20 points on that team, I don't think they'll be able to beat us. Steelers, their offensive line is still terrible. As well as they're playing, they really do not have a lot of weapons for Aaron Rodgers to throw to. It's really like 2 guys at the receiver position. He doesn't go to the tight ends that much, and he throws to the running backs probably more than he throws to tight ends in Pittsburgh, and it's still very tough for them to run the ball too. So that's a win. Bengals are going to be without their quarterback. That's a win. Patriots, Browns, then Eagles. And we're going to be in Cleveland. That could be a tough game against that defense, but late in the season, most of those guys will be ready to get home. Then we got the Eagles here, and then we end with the Jets here. Now, the reason I just went through all this is you look at the NFC South: Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Bucks. The only challenging team in that division is the Bucks, right? We've seen the Falcons have a pop game. We've seen the Panthers have a pop game. Saints, I believe, are 0-3, but they had 2 strong games to start the season and then 1 blowout, right? The division we play in also gives us an additional 6 wins, basically. So those 6 wins, 3 from the NFC South guaranteed, right? And then I think we play the AFC North, and we're guaranteed. We have 1 win. We're guaranteed 2 more. The Browns, I think, will be the toughest game from that division. So another guaranteed 3 wins because we'll beat the Bengals. That's here. Jake Browning is not coming in here and beating us. And then beating the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Again, if we were, and I'll use this because I wanted to use this as an example too. Let's pull up the Ravens schedule. And also the Chiefs schedule. And then I want to get to something that a lot of fans were saying last year that I think drives this point home. Okay. Let's go through the Chiefs schedule really quick for the rest of their season. So this Sunday, they're playing a 4:25 game against the Chiefs. I'm sorry, against the Ravens. Then the Chiefs play the Jaguars. Then they play the Lions. Another tough game. Then they play the Raiders. Raiders always play the Chiefs very tough. Both times last year, they almost got beat. So you really can't point to that game as an easy game for the Chiefs, especially with how they've looked so far to start the season. The quarterback of the Commanders will be back by the time they play the Chiefs, so that's going to be a tough game. Then the Bills, then the Chiefs come here to play us. Another tough game. Then they play the Broncos. Broncos almost beat them twice last year. Should have beat them once at least, right? Then they play the Colts. The Colts have looked like beasts. They are one of 3 teams in the AFC that are still undefeated right now. It's Bills, Chargers, Colts, right? So that's a tough game, right? Cowboys, we'll see. We'll see where CeeDee Lamb is at that point. That'll probably be a shootout, but I'm not counting that as like a tough game. That game would probably be the equivalent of us playing the Bucs. And then you have the Texans at Kansas City. That's a win. Then you got the Chargers at Kansas City. That's gonna be a brawl. That's gonna be a brawl, right? Then you got Chiefs at Titans, and then you got Broncos at Chiefs, and then the Chiefs end the season at Vegas to play the Raiders. Okay, so I just showed you guys in the Bills schedule 9 pretty much guaranteed wins based on roster, quarterback play, how we've seen these teams play so far this season. Okay, find me in this schedule all of the guaranteed wins for the Chiefs, right? Jaguars, maybe, that team is like the definition of roller coaster this season. They've had some good games, and they've had a really bad game. You could probably say Texans, they win that game. Titans, they for sure win that game. That's 3 out of the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 weeks. 3 games out of the next 14 weeks where you can point at that and say, man, they should definitely beat that team. Okay, let's hit the Ravens schedule. The Ravens are, and I'm going somewhere with this now. Bear with me.
Stay with me now.
Texans are playing I'm sorry. Yeah. No, Ravens at Chiefs. Okay, this week. Then the Ravens play the Texans. That should be a win for the Ravens. Okay. Rams at Ravens. That's a tough game. Bears at Ravens. The Bears, I think the Bears are another one of those Buccaneer style teams where it should be a win, but it could be tough. It could be tough. I mean, we're seeing a progression happen with Caleb with Caleb Williams. We're seeing, Caleb Williams. We're seeing a transition happen with him this year where, he's starting to play a little bit more in structure, which is really all he needed. And then, use his legs and his athletic ability as needed, later on in the game when plays need to be made. but that could be a very tough game for the Ravens with the way that they've played so far this season. Then the Ravens play the Dolphins. That should be a win for the Ravens. Then the Ravens play the Vikings. Depending on who the Vikings have at quarterback, the Vikings defense is very, very good, and they can run the ball. So if McCarthy is playing in that game, it's probably a win for the Ravens. Because there are some there's rumblings, but the Falcons are saying nobody's actually called about Kirk Cousins. If the Vikings do something at quarterback, and I think we still have to see how Wentz plays with the Vikings too, to kind of get a feel for how that's going to go, but that could be a tough game for the Ravens. Then the Ravens have the Browns. The Browns always play the Ravens very tough, so that is not an easy game. Then the Ravens have the Jets game. That's going to be in Baltimore. It's an automatic win for the Ravens. Then the Ravens go Bengals, Steelers, Bengals. I'm sorry, Bengals ain't beating the Ravens. Not with Browning. Not with Browning. They will struggle to score points. That's usually a very tough game for the Ravens, and it's usually a shootout. Not with Jake Browning. Ravens should also beat the Steelers, right? So it looks right now like the Ravens probably have more easier games on their schedule, and realistically, the back half of their schedule looks fairly easy. Like they could probably catch up quick if the Bills don't stay consistent, right? Because you're talking about after Bengals, Steelers, you're talking about Patriots, then Packers, then Steelers, right? And they end with the Steelers. So games they should win, they should beat the Texans, they should beat the Dolphins, the Jets for sure. I'm leaving that Vikings game out, to see what the quarterback situation looks like. Bengals twice, Steelers, Patriots, and Steelers again. That's 8 gimme games, in my opinion. It's 8 gimme games, right? So, I mean, my point is this. Last year, fans were looking at the schedule, and I want to go to it. There was this gauntlet of teams that we had to go through. Oh, shoot. Okay. It was this gauntlet of teams that we had to go through, right? And we looked at that as, is this it? No, that's definitely not it. Oh yeah, that was it. Okay. And people looked at that, people looked at the schedule like, man, if you can make it through that, like you straight. Like, you know what I mean? It was kind of like a test that we looked at, the Bills' ability to test themselves and go through the fire and see how we come out, right? And it was Chiefs, Niners, Rams, Lions. That span last year of 4 straight games against playoff caliber teams. We looked at that and we said, man, like if the Bills do well through that, that'll say a lot for where they can go in the playoffs. And I think the issue that I'm kind of presenting now and the issue that I take with the Bills' approach so far this season of we don't need to do, therefore we won't, is how do you know how much you're really being tested? If you never venture to drive 80 miles an hour, how would you ever know whether you can or can't do it? See, again, all of this comes to mindset. It comes to how you view yourself. It comes to what you believe about yourself. Even if I knew that I could beat somebody in a fight, that's just how I feel about my fighting ability. That doesn't mean that I've gone and tested myself against that person to actually find out. Those are two completely different things. And unless I actually go and test myself out against this opponent, I can't walk around telling everybody else, yeah, I could beat him. I could do that. I'll lock him up easy. I'll drop him in 3 seconds. I can't, you know what I'm saying? I can't be in a boxing match and beat somebody by 1 point, win a decision by 1 point and be like, man, I don't even got to try. I got it. I'm good. I ain't even got it, man. I ain't got to try. I ain't got to do none of that. Right? That's what the Bills are doing this season. This mentality of, I don't need to try, therefore I won't. I'm not being forced to try, therefore I won't. That lends to all of us fans saying, oh, big bad, man. If we don't need to go off on these boys, we don't got to do it, but we know we good, right? We know we good, right? We know we good, right? Right? So how do you know you that good? Who are you testing yourself against? What are you testing against these people? If you're not going all out and scoring 44 like the Seahawks did, you can say, yeah, we know we can score whenever we want. You can say that all you want. But you've only scored 31 on the Dolphins. You've only scored 30 on the Jets. Did you look, well put together doing it? No. And I get that there's development throughout the season. I get that. But that same approach almost got you killed in week 1. And we were still looking at this team in the third quarter. Why are you running the ball when this team is easily scoring points against you? You need to be finding ways to score against them as quickly as possible so that you're not trailing by 10 points, 14 points, 15, 16 points late in the fourth quarter. We were all saying this. Why are they still running the ball? We're going to trust the process. We know we can score when we need to. And we did it once. And because we did it once against who we did it against, people are confident in saying, we did it on the Ravens, we could do it against anybody. If only that were true. If only that were true. Kev says it will feel great if we use it. Oh, wait. I'm behind. Bodega Cat says, I hear all the complaints about the defense and it's valid, but we are actually solid in the midfield and good enough on the back end. But the missed tackles are the biggest flaw. I hear what you're saying. And while I don't agree with your assessment of the back end of this defense, I do think midfield, yeah, the build that's probably gonna continue to be for the next couple of years at least. The strength of the defense is the linebackers. But the the issue with that is they're only a strength in the pass game. They're not a strength in the run game. Their strength is so heavily dependent on the defensive line that they might as well give half of their paycheck to the defensive line. Like, that's just the bottom line. We looked at Tremaine Edmonds like, yo, you 6'5", 200. He was never that guy. If he made a play in the run, it was heavily dependent on the defensive line. Those are the kind of guys that Sean wants. He wants the kind of guys that are going to be dominant in the pass game, can cover well, and can make plays against the pass. That's what he wants. The run stuff, that'll come with we'll teach you how to cover the run. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Right? And then they turn around and they say, well, all right, here's this other guy that fits our culture. Great guy, comes from a great program. His coaches have said nothing but great things about him. No, bad stuff in his background. Right? Or I don't think, no, I can't say no bad stuff in his background. Right? But he's more of a run defender than he is a pass defender. Let's bring Dorian Williams in here and we can teach him how to be good in the pass game. It don't always work like that. You know what I'm saying? Like you're banking on these players' abilities to supersede something that they haven't superseded their whole entire career. I would find more validity in Sean McDermott pointing to 3, 4, 5 times on tape that they saw Dorian Williams in college be great in the pass game. Like, see that right there. The way he read that, the way he reacted to that, the way he did that, like that's what we think we can bring out of him more consistently. But again, it has to have existed before for it to be brought out. And what we see the Bills do and say is, you never played safety before? Don't worry about it. Forget about it. Safety, we could teach you safety. Don't worry about that. Only a run stuffer at safety? Don't worry about that. We can teach you split safety. Don't worry about that, Cole Bishop. Even though all the other scouts are saying you need to be a linebacker, we're going to put you at safety. Don't worry about it. We got you. X says, I just want to see Jordan Hancock play mainly. Deal. That's exactly what I want to. Any given Sunday, though. Yeah. I mean, that's my point. That's Bengals have their defense. No, Billy D. The Bengals do not have their defense. That's the problem. Bodega Cat says, wait, I'm sorry. Sean Kula says division games can always be hard. Browns beat Packers anytime, can beat anyone. Yeah. I'm just talking about the likelihoods. I mean, again, the idea here is to fully test yourself against every opponent, not try to show restraint against lesser opponents. We shouldn't be in the business of that, right? Not for code, not for whatever other reason. Nate, I would love to see that. He says the Bengals should trade for Jameis. I would love to see that. I keep forgetting, that I can switch the camera because, Keys is not saying much tonight. But anyway, Miguel says it's been like that for KC up till this point. Their division was like ours is now. Now KC has our type of schedule. Yeah. And what's crazy is their team feels like our team felt last year, where you go into the season, it's like, did they add anything? Like, what did they do? You know what I'm saying? Like this might not be a good season for them, and they start off, playing not well against the Chargers, and the Chargers throwing all over them and moving the ball at will. And like, you look at that team and it's like, man, like the first 3 weeks of the season for the Chargers is what the Bills went through when they played the Ravens and the Texans last season. The thing I worry about is they've been doing all this without their top 2 receivers. What's going to happen when they get those boys back? And Tyquan Thornton is in rhythm with Patrick Mahomes, and he's now just the third boomer bust option for that offense. And then you add into that Juju Smith-Schuster, who's there, whenever you need him for those underneath routes. And I mean, at that point, you running with those 4 receivers, Kelsey don't have to be the dude. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, look, they still have a great defense. I would still be nervous playing that team in the AFC Championship game here, but it does feel right now like if we played the AFC Championship game today, we'd take them. That's what it feels like now. Miguel says it's been like that for KC. Oh, I'm sorry, I just read that one. Laura says I still don't know who I want to lose more, Chiefs versus Ravens. If only they could both lose. If they tie, I know it's not likely. I'm not ever gonna say that's likely, but if they tie, they both lose. That's one more game back out of the 1 seed. They wouldn't. There's no math that would be able to get them out of a tie. It's almost in a sense, it's almost automatic disqualification. Really. Nate says still haven't hit 50% of likes. Oh man, thank you. Still haven't hit 50% of likes for the amount of folks watching. I would appreciate it. That would be nice of you guys. X says KC will turn it around. We've been here exactly. Chiefs at Bills divisional. If 1-seeder Bills versus Chiefs round 1, it's inevitable. Yeah, that's what it feels like. At this point, again, even though the Ravens just got beat down by the Lions, that is still not a team that I want to see in the playoffs. I don't care what y'all say. Will they choke? Probably. Will they put up, numbers on us? Probably. Do they have a great chance to win? Probably. Do the Bills usually win that game? Yes. Do I still want to see them even despite all that? No. No. Sean said, hold on. Sean says, you are what your record says. Bears are 1-2 with 2 awful games played. Yeah, new offense, new offensive coordinator, new system. That's to be expected. Growing pains. That's an instance where Ben Johnson's offense works. You've seen what he did with the Lions. So it's really just a matter of getting the players on board and getting everybody in sync with what's expected. And to some degree, Ben Johnson being able to make peace with the fact that Caleb Williams is not going to be Jared Goff, right? He's going to improvise. He's going to take chances he shouldn't take. He's going to try to fit the ball into, tight spots and be that playmaking type of guy. That's who he's always been in college. Yep. Laura says, I don't hate the Bears. They're on their way up, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. This random person who is impersonating my co-host here. Actually, hold on. Here we go. Key, you can read this. Right. I agree. Bodega Cat says they have first round picks all over the team. I think they'll be okay with a second year quarterback and an offensive head coach. Second year. Oh, you talking about the Vikings? Yeah. But again, we're talking about the Vikings against the Ravens though. Like that's it's a different monster for a young quarterback, and we'll see this on Sunday with Spencer Rattler going against the Bills. It's just different. Watching Spencer Rattler on tape, he can place the ball, right? That's something that he does well, and part of the reason he has the job is because he's not making rookie mistakes from the like you can just tell like if he gets in a jam, he's gonna do what it takes to take the safest way out, right? He's not gonna try to make a play happen with where he is now in his development. So I don't think this is gonna be an instance where we're gonna see guys like JJ McCarthy and Spencer Rattler come in and just start throwing the ball all over the yard on the better teams in the league. Can they do it against lesser teams, lesser defenses? Yeah, we saw JJ McCarthy do that against the Bears. Right now, it's defensively too. It's a lesser team. The team's not playing as well defensively as they were the year before. But if those teams were to play again later in the season, I don't think JJ McCarthy's doing all that to that Bears team. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think it really, comes down to, when these teams play, the level of competition for these teams. And that's why I said what I said about the Vikings. Okay, so Key, you want to read this one? Right. Right. I agree. And I mean, truth be told, that's why. Whoa, how did this jump all the way to how did this jump all the way up there? I didn't do that on purpose. And I was way behind too. Holy cow. Where is this at? Oh, yeah. So I mean, again, that, but the reason that those teams have, how can I say this? Though I'll put it like this: those teams will have a better idea of who they are by the playoffs than the Bills will this season. And I guess that's the essence of my stance on how the Bills are approaching these games against lesser competition. If you're not sure that you can put up 60 on a bad team because you haven't tried, how do you know you'll be able to consistently put up 30 against a great team? Right? You put up 30 on two bad teams, and in a valiant, heroic, but also desperate effort to win in week 1, you put up 41 points on a team that the Lions also just beat down, but also held to a lesser score than you did. So, it's some of this is semantics from the standpoint of, how we want the team to win games. But one of the things that you have been saying, Key, is, you want an identity. And I just don't know how there can be an identity if you're not sure what the consistency is going to be of your team for the entirety of the season. Right? If you're lightning in a bottle for one game in week 1, and I'm sorry, I put the camera in the wrong spot. If you actually should have switched it back on to me. You were doing that on Monday. If you people who don't know what's going on right now are probably watching me like, what the hell is wrong with this dude? If you're lightning in a bottle in week 1, and then you get to weeks 2 and 3, and your offense looks the same as it did for the first 3 quarters of week 1, but somehow you score 30 points, I think you come out of those games saying that only happens because of how bad the teams you played were. Not because of how dominant you are. It's because of how bad the teams you were playing were. Like, think about that. You played the same way in weeks 2 and 3 that you did in the first 3 quarters of week 1. And in week 1, you only put up what, 20 something points? You didn't put up 30 on the Ravens by the time you were, trailing by. Well, hold on. Did you? You might have. Let me go look at this. So I'm not putting my foot in my mouth. Where is it? Let me see here. All right. So the Bills at that point, before the fourth quarter, had only scored 13, so 19 points. They had only scored 19 points by the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth. The Bills then come back and score 22 points in the fourth quarter to win by 1 point. So what I'm saying is the Bills had basically 20 points after 3 quarters, right? What is that in the fourth? That's only another 10 points. How hard is it to score 10 points in a 15-minute quarter? It's 2 drives. Most teams get about 3 per quarter. That's usually, and that's like if you're going against a team like the Lions that can just run it whenever they want, like they can really drag it out. You might only get 2, but for the most part, most teams get at least 3, right? So that matters. That matters. It matters that for the sake of my point, the Bills are only scoring 10 points in the fourth quarter against bad teams. Right. And when I say for the sake of my point, just kind of following the metaphor that I'm using, or following I guess it's more of an analogy, but this idea that the Bills are not necessarily playing down to their competition. They're just not playing well offensively. They're not executing the way they want to execute. And it showed very obviously in week 1. And it didn't show as much in weeks 2 and 3 because of the level of competition. Again, how can this team expect? And let's, we got a little bit of time. I can jump into these next 2 games really quick. Hold on. My computer would do what it's supposed to do. Okay. Bills Jets 30-10. The Bills scored 10 in the first, 10 in the second, 3 in the third, 7 in the fourth. 30 points. Right? By halftime, they had 20 points. By the end of the third, they had 23 points. The Jets still had 3. So end of the third, it's 23-3. You know what I'm saying? I mean, 23, 4 points more than 19 the week before after 3 quarters against a bad team. That's about what you'll get if you're consistent with your play. And that's what I'm trying to show here is the production was consistent. The production was consistent. They had 19 after 3 quarters in the first week, 23 after 3 quarters in the second week, right? What did they have against the Dolphins? Let's go back to that one. All right. Bills had 21 points after 3 quarters. 21-14 after 3 quarters. So 19 in week 1 after 3 quarters, 23 in week 2 after 3 quarters, 21 after 3 in 3 quarters. Then they go to score 10 points in the fourth quarter because the Dolphins scored a touchdown. I mean, again, how much did the Colts beat this team by? I need I need to see that really quick. It's 33-8. It's 33-8. The Dolphins couldn't even score more than 10 points on the Colts. And the Colts defensively is not like they not stalwart like that. Like they not built like that. I just don't understand. And they play a similar defensive scheme to what we play. So what's the difference? What's the difference? Difference is Colts been on 10 all season long. The Bills trust in the process. We're going to do what we need to do when we need to do it. Let's get to some comments here. You saying that to me? Key said, I'm late, but I wasn't saying why are we running the ball. I was saying let him cook. Oh, of course. But I mean, the idea was at that point in the game in week 1, like, come on, man, like you gotta show some sort of aggression, show initiative, show you trying to make something happen, do something, Steve says, yeah, Bills just like old Casey, except they had top playmakers, great coaches, guys who could cover one-on-one. Casey did draft a Hall of Fame quarterback with a Bills pick. That's the same. Dank from Edison says, why don't we try the rookies on defense? You talking about Strong? Because the two rookie defensive tackles they're getting plenty of burn especially with Oliver being hurt. And I don't think Sean minds that one bit, which is I'm enjoying seeing, these two young rookies, a 4th round pick and a 2nd round pick, both get plenty of playing time on the defensive line. They did say that they were going to try to get Landon Jackson out there this week. Sean said he was going to see about getting him a jersey for the game this week, so maybe he'll get a chance to get in there. This is a quarterback I think he could do well against. The offensive line looks solid, not elite. So, maybe he gets in, I would give Jackson, if I can get him 10 snaps, I would get him 10 snaps. I would say that's a good number for Jackson. To get in the game, get some experience, get some burn. And who knows if he goes 10 reps and he comes up with, two pressures in a sack, fine. Like, perfect. If he gets anywhere near a sack, if he looks like he can get around that edge and he looks like an actual pass rusher, to me, that's a win. Because that's what people are hoping he can be. Now, you got folks saying, why am I trifling, Laura? Wow. Steve says, hate this podcast, always pointing out team flaws that allows me to understand why we get eliminated in the playoffs, showing the shortcomings of McDermott and Bean. Why can't you be like Sal? Renaissance, what's going on? I ain't heard from you in a while. Says the identity is scoring one more point than your opponent. Basically, at this stage, I'm tired of worrying about specifics and scrutinizing everything. Get to the playoffs and do the same. Score one more point. That's not an identity, my man. It's not. That's how games are won, but it's not an identity. I get you saying it's not rocket science. I understand that. And then Renaissance goes on to say, who cares how they do it or what fashion they did it or how good they look, just score more points and win. Simple. Again, the issue here is, how does it translate to the playoffs? If somebody hops in this chat and tries to tell me how the playoffs are different from the regular season and nothing translates, we might have to fight. Because the team brings their entire roster, and the team also brings their coaches, and they bring their strength and conditioning crew, and they bring, everybody else that's a part of the team with them into the playoffs. I don't know what you think happens to a team when they make it to the playoffs or when they play in their first playoff game, but it's not, the Bills aren't going from, week 17 of, all right, now it's the playoffs. Now we're going to play a completely different way. We're going to be aggressive on defense. We're going to teams don't switch up for the playoffs. All they do is focus more on the team they're facing as opposed to the development of their team. You got to understand from a team standpoint, the regular season is built around team development and preparation for the playoffs for teams like the Bills. Right? Because you want to get experience, you want to iron out the kinks so that by the time you get to the playoffs, it's smooth. You're just off and running. You know what you're capable of doing. You know what plays work, what plays don't work. You know what players can do what and what players can't do what. That's what the regular season is for, right? A regular season, the regular season for teams like the Bills are in a lot of ways a much tougher extension of preseason, right? Because preseason is a lot of the same thing. I got to see what these players can do. I got to see who can play, who fits, who doesn't fit, who can do what, who can't do what, right? Regular season is the same thing. I'm playing these games and making an effort to win these games so that I can make the playoffs. That's goal number one. Goal number two is preparation for the playoffs, right? So don't tell me that the playoffs are a different thing and it don't matter when everything they do during the regular season is part of preparation for how they're going to perform in the playoffs. That's a fundamental part of how NFL teams operate. It's not it's not rocket science. Like that we can't. Again, fans oversimplifying things that the Bills do. That's an oversimplification to say it's not rocket science. Nobody's trying to say it is rocket science, but at the same time, there's a level of understanding that has to be had during the regular season in order to know that your team is ready for the playoffs. Because the competition level is gonna go up, right? The expectation for your own players is gonna go up. So here's a prime example, and I'll use the NBA for this. Most teams, and Key, you can correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Most teams, we'll just leave it here so that we can see Key's reaction. Most teams in the NBA, when they make the playoffs, they are not playing as many of their younger players or as much of their bench as they normally would in the regular season. The same goes in the NFL. Teams are not playing as much of their backup players or rotational players as they normally would in the regular season in the playoffs. That's just how it is, right? You can see it on Key's face. He's nodding yes, like that's what it is. That's what it is. So this idea that it's like we gotta just assume that we can ignore the regular season. The regular season doesn't matter. It's the playoffs that matter. Well, how you get to the playoffs matters as well, because if you play only easy teams and it still looks hard, and then you get to the playoffs and it looks like it did in week 1 against the Ravens, you might not be as good as you thought you were. Don't you think you need to know that before the playoffs? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And that's why it matters. There's not going to be a point in time where this point should not be thought about between now and forever. Forever. You can look at drought teams, right? How good are we against the good teams? We used to talk about it during the drought all the time. Oh, we know we can't keep up with the Steelers. We know we can't keep up with the Ravens. We know we can barely beat the Patriots. How are we going to keep up with the Colts? Like, excuse me. Like, these are conversations you have because you're measuring yourself against what? Teams that are in the playoffs. Why? Because you want to see where you are now and project from that point where you would be in the playoffs. I don't just make this stuff up. I don't just make this stuff up. Rico, what's going on? Appreciate you, bro. Thank you for showing some love, man. Appreciate you, really. Spin says, how do you not understand? Here we go. Laura, you was right. They're gonna come out the woodwork when it's just me here. Spin says, how do you not understand? 1 year we beat the Pats 31-0. Next matchup, the next matchup, Pats beat the Bills 31-0. Not every week is the same. Again, that's not what I'm saying. If you pay attention, that's not what I'm saying. At all. At all. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you went 1-1 with the Patriots, the one thing you can say for sure is that when you get in the playoffs, it's a 50-50 chance. That's what you've learned from the regular season, right? What would the thought process be if both times you played the Patriots, you lost to them 31-0, but you still made the playoffs? I think the thought process would be, we ain't got a great shot, but we gonna try. You get what I'm saying? That's the idea of gleaning information. Again, the reason I think this way is because I have a mentality that was built from an industry designed around reading body language and human behavior and understanding how people work. So I have to be able to glean things from sources of information that don't willingly give it to me, right? So that's why I think the way that I think. But there's a level to that teams do themselves. I mean, aside from me getting an NFL head coach on the show or an NFL player on the show to say that right here, right now, do your own research. You don't have to take my word for it, but I'm telling you that's how it is. That's just how it is. Renaissance says, improve the defense by the playoffs. We're good money. I swear to God, it's simple as that. Okay. How does the defense improve? How does the defense improve? The ability to read and react will be the same, because that's more based on the player's ability to process. I think we can say with the utmost confidence that there's a higher chance for Cole Bishop to get better in the way that he read and reacts rather than Taylor Rapp, because at this point in Taylor Rapp's career, he is who he is, right? If anything, we've seen him take a regression this season. So I'm not going to say that Cole Bishop can't get there, but let's just take that point and spread it over the whole team like butter, right? Let's look at this from the standpoint of this defense. By the numbers this season are not that far off from where they were last year. I just talked about this in Monday's episode. Talked about the yards per play allowed. Not that different. Last year it was 5.5. I think this year it's 5.2 right now. So it's not that different. And all of that has to do with a lot of the players that you had last year, you got this year, right? So what I'm trying to say is, it's not just a matter of, slapping a sticker of, just improve the defense and you'll be fine. Well, how specifically? How? That there has to be detail in that, right? Are you going to put somebody better, put somebody that can play better coverage next to Cole Bishop? Excuse me a second. Are you going to put a better player next to Cole Bishop? Are you going to give Dorian Strong a chance to get out there and play, knowing that he's probably a little bit faster and more athletic than Trey White is right now? Excuse me. Are you going to do that? That could be an improvement. Are you going to give Max Hairston a chance to just get out there and sink or swim with his athletic play? Maybe in this defense, maybe with a little bit of help on the field. Maybe he's more of an impact player. Yeah, that's a way to improve it. But are you going to do that? Right? We haven't seen Sean have the tendency to do those type of things where he's unseating a veteran for a younger guy, and the only cause being we're trying to improve the team. He's not going to do that to Trey White. In Sean's mind, that would be kind of disrespectful to Trey White, especially with the esteem that Trey has had here his entire career. He wouldn't do that to Trey White unless there was an injury, right? With Milano, when Milano came back, he was not 100%. It took him a couple of games before we saw, Matt Milano, and this was into the playoffs, before we saw Matt Milano really starting to make plays and starting to get up to the speed of the game. But he brought Milano back anyway. Why? Because the esteem that he holds for Matt Milano and the leader he is on this team and the position that he's held on this team his entire career, right? If the mindset at that point was to just ride the hot hand, Dorian Williams would have still been in the game. But what would that have said for Matt Milano? See, that's the stuff we're not thinking about when we say just improve the defense. The head coach ain't thinking like that. So how can you? Right? Spence said RELAX. We have a top 10 defense, 9 to be exact, against what kind of teams? See, I knew it. I said this on Monday. I knew it. I knew it was going to come down to this. I knew it was going to come down to people saying, "Oh, we have a top 10 defense," when we're playing quite possibly the easiest schedule in the NFL. I knew it. Rico says, so what's your solution, my boy? Maybe I missed it, but all I'm hearing are questions. Again, I posed a couple of solutions in terms of adding some speed and athleticism to the defense. You can sit Trey White and let's see what Dorian Strong has got, right? Having a guy who at this point, from what we've seen, in week 1 and what we've seen in training camp, can play a lot like Christian Benford can, and is more athletic than Christian Benford, ran a faster 40 time, and is bigger than Christian Benford, and is bigger than Trey White. Let's give him a shot. We got to I would be willing to take those kind of chances, especially with how well he showed in week 1. That's an option for improvement at the safety position. Jordan Hancock is a much better cover safety than any of the guys that we have. Give him a daggone shot. The shoulder's got to be fine by now. At this point, it's just a matter of, I like Taylor Rapp so much, I want to leave him out there and be the leader on defense. That's really all that is, right? To be quite honest, it doesn't matter as much with the report that I said about Max Hairston, having a hard time, getting the playbook down, which again comes from a source on the team. Even that doesn't matter because, as I stated, and I want to say it doesn't matter. It does matter because you want a guy to be able to come in and get the playbook down and be able to move on to bigger and better things so that his development arc is faster, right? That's really why you look at those types of things. You want a player to be good earlier so that you can get the most, bang for buck. But anyway, for a guy like Hancock, who, people would say, well, he might not know the defense as well as Taylor Rapp. You can still have other guys on the team help him out. You got Terrell Bernard right in front of him that can help him out, right? It's not, again, I had a conversation with Damaris and he said this happens. They'll tell the player on the defense, hey, make sure he knows what he's doing. They'll tell the player on offense, hey, make sure that wide receiver knows what he's doing. That's how they help young guys. That's what they did with Rasul Douglas when he got here. That's why it seemed like he fit in seamlessly. Hey, help him out. Why? Because it wasn't, well, we're going to simplify the playbook. No. The playbook is difficult, right? Sean McDermott is known in the NFL for having a difficult defensive scheme to learn. That's why he got fired in Philly. The players complained his playbook was too difficult. It's too much stuff, right? They wanted to be able to play fast and just go. And his defense doesn't allow that. It's a lot of, thinking, a lot of things to consider, a lot of reads and stuff like that. So my point is, when we look at what happened with Rasul Douglas after a full offseason of being here in Buffalo, what happened? His play went down. Why? Because he was expected to know the plays at that point. He was expected to make the reads. That slows a player down like you wouldn't believe. It really does. When they got to do that much thinking, it's not just see ball, go hit. And offensively, it's not just, run to the spot and catch. It's, I got to think about what this guy who's covering me is doing and what that's opening up for the tight end. What does that mean for whether or not I'm running outside or inside? Is this an option route? What's the hot read on this play based on what I'm seeing pre-snap? Like when you gotta go through all that stuff and you have to think during the play, it slows you down significantly, right? What helps that is having a guy on the field. Hey, You in deep third. Is cover one. Right? You in deep third. So you got the middle of the field. That's you. Like, that makes it easy. I don't gotta think. I got deep third. That's me. Single high. That's me. Right? Hey, on this play, you blitzing. Easy. Hey, on this play, bump and run. Easy. That's the kind of help that these guys can get on the field, even if they don't have all the reads and all that kind of stuff. So when I'm talking about improvements on defense, we've got guys in the waiting that can come in here and be solutions to certain positions. That's just one way. That's just one way of improving the defense, right? I mean, we could talk about, doing different formations, running a 4-4. We can run a 5-2. Like, you said something about running a 5-2 before, right? Like, right? I know I've heard you say that before. So there's a lot of different things that they can do. It really just comes down to whether or not they are willing to forego what it looks like and forego the politics of it all, forego the embarrassment of Trey White, the embarrassment of Matt Milano, the embarrassment of Taylor Rapp, and get some guys in there that might be more effective, either against the run or the pass or whatever is needed for this defense to be more effective, especially on third downs, right? Because if we're talking about this team being another year of, bad third down defense, well, what does that come down to? That comes down to, A, you're not getting enough pass rush, and B, your coverage is not good enough. It's not tight enough, right? And Sean used the language of, the pass rush and the coverage need to help each other. Yeah, it's a very political way of saying, they both need to be better, but on plays that he's, referencing the pass rush has got to be better. On plays that he's referencing the secondary's got to be better. They both have to operate well, and they both have to operate better at the same time. That's how you end up with a better defense. But if you don't have the horses to do it, and that's what I think this is really coming down to, is you have some horses that can come in and improve the team. Jordan Hancock's one of them. Dorian Strong's one of them. We hope Max Hairston's one of them, but he's probably not going to be in for a good long time. You have Dorian Williams to come in for Milano, right? So that you can be better against the run, stronger against the run, especially if you're going to, blitz Dorian Williams. Like, that's a weapon to have there with all the, stunts and different things that you've been doing on offense. You're blitzing. I think you're blitzing the most in the league right now. So if that's the case, get that guy on the field, right? He was good. If you hadn't sat him down last year, he was going to lead your team in tackles. So it's not like he's a so word I'm looking for. It's not like he's a weak link or a liability, right? But again, those are just some of the ways that you improve the team. Hope I answered your question, Rico. We are coming up on. I get that point. I get that point, Rico. I get that point. But this is this is the reason why I use Rasul Douglas as an example, right? Rico says chemistry matters. Young boys don't just come in and get it like that. Rasul Levesque can't use that example. Yeah, yes, I can. Yeah, for the specific reason that I used them for. Hey, bump and run. Easy. And again, this ain't this. I didn't just make this up. This is me talking to someone who played the game, somebody who played in the NFL. This is what they told me. This is what teams can do. Make it easy for the guy. Right? Like, again, we're chemistry is an oversimplification of a team's ability to play together. You don't have to have played together like defensemen in hockey. You don't have to have played together for years and years to have a certain level of chemistry. If anything, chemistry really only matters with quarterbacks and receivers. and maybe offensive lines, you know what I'm saying? But defensive lines, there's a lot of different things that can be done, or you can run a static defense with a bunch of good defensive linemen, and it doesn't matter. You you just throw a bunch of good defensive linemen at them like the Eagles do, and you just go. Like, not a ton of chemistry is needed for that. I'm not saying that chemistry is non-existent, but I think when we present chemistry the way that you did, Rico, it comes across as something that solves the problem of a team not playing well together. Well, you just got to develop chemistry. No, the players got to know what they're doing, and they got to be good enough to do it. Again, the way I approach the game and the way I approach every single point that I make is, on this show or anywhere else, it's got to be a convergence of information. It's not as simplistic as singular chemistry. It's not as simplistic as singular just improve the defense. There's stuff that has to go into that, right? So, again, I don't want to get stuck in, my criticisms of the team, but at the end of the day, man, just do whatever it takes and stop being scared of the politics and do what it takes necessary to improve the team. You owe it to us to do that. You owe it to us. If you can be cutthroat in training camp, then you can be cutthroat in the regular season too. But if you treat it like a family, this is what it's going to look like. If you treat it like we all brothers here and everybody, loves one another, well, it's going to be that much harder to sit a guy down who's been starting in your defense for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, even though you need to, right? Bodega Cat says, in my 30 years of watching football, it's pretty simple sometimes. Master the fundamentals and let your Hall of Fame cook. We seen Tom and Bill do it for eons, and Jim and Marv do it before that. Excuse me. I'm gonna make this point, and then we gotta start closing it out. So I'm starting to lose my voice. Is what we saw the Patriots do simply good defense and clutch quarterback play? No, because there's work and there's teaching and training and things that went into Brady being as good as he is. It took a lot of patience and a lot of understanding from Bill Belichick to sit and spend that time with Brady game in and game out, week in and week out, looking at tape, seeing what Brady wants to do, being patient and humble enough to say, okay, if that's what you want to do, we'll try that. If it don't work, then it don't work. Don't ever ask me to do that again. But my point is, when we oversimplify it to just let the Hall of Famer cook, that's when the point becomes, well, just let Josh be Josh. Right? That's when the point, because we've oversimplified everything. We've broken it down to, when we get in trouble, break glass, Josh solves all things. That's what we've broken this whole thing down to. Not chemistry, not defensive improvement, not none of that. If your point, Bodega Cat, is let your Hall of Famer cook, okay. Josh and hopefully Cook. Those are your two Hall of Famers right now. If we're realistically trying to project it, because the trajectory that James Cook is on this year, he'll be solidified if he continues to do what he's doing. He'll be solidified for sure. There's already a lot of teams last year that put him in the top 10. So if he does more this year, top 5. He'll be in the top 5. Get to a couple more comments here, and then I got a jet. Rico says, making it easy for a guy going against a guy like Mahomes, you're going to get cooked. Nah, I don't mess with that. Dudes are too smart for simple commands. Look. If Elam can get a pick on Mahomes, bro. didn't get a pick on Mahomes with all the struggles that he had, and he actually had the playbook down. See, that was the thing. He was just too aggressive, and his in-game reads as he's covering the receiver, he wasn't athletic enough to with the hip flip and his transitions and all that kind of stuff. He wasn't smooth enough to play match with a guy, and the Bills pretty much always put him on match. And zone coverage, he was terrible, right? But even he, the guy who's getting tore up in Dallas the last couple of games, even he got a pick on Mahomes. So I'm not saying that your point has no validity. I think you're right. There are levels to it, right? Because you wouldn't just say to heck with it and bring, Max Hairston back for his first game in the playoffs, right? That there's levels to it. So I get your point. But again, I don't think this point that you're making now stops what I'm saying in its tracks. And I think, again, both points really speak to a convergence of information, because we're both right in the right context. But as a whole, I think it really comes down to making the tough decisions to move people out of positions that you need to move them out of in order for the team to get better play, more consistent play, and and hopefully better production from the defense as a whole. Steve says opinions don't make you dumb, but qualifying statement about without facts that get shattered with facts sure is an exposure. You decide what it exposes. It's sure not an intelligent argument or statement. I'm not sure what that was referring to. Okay. Bodega Cat says a lot of Bodega Cat this episode here. Let's get somebody else in here. DeQuan, what's going on, man? Says, isn't this how it worked with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant? In terms of what? What do you mean? Just letting the Hall of Famers cook? Well, basketball is a different game. Basketball is a much different game. Much different game. Spin says Cook will need to do this for at least 5 more years to be considered for Hall of Fame. Yeah, but again, this is what I'm saying. Like, the fact that you said that speaks to how well he did last year and how well he's doing this year. Most people last year were saying he'll never make the Hall of Fame, right? But now we're seeing that last year wasn't a fluke, and he's doing it at a higher clip this season, where he'll easily eclipse 16 touchdowns if he stays on this trajectory. And same thing for the yards he had last year. He'll eclipse that easily. And now Spin is saying 5 more years of this type of play. You know what I'm saying? Even if it is up and down, because James Cook, I don't think week 1 he didn't have a ton of rushing yards, but he had that that long pass, that screenplay or whatever that Josh called. As long as we see him, put up these kind of numbers in 5 more years, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, exactly. That's huge for him, and I love saying that. Let me see. What else? Tommy, what you talking about? Tommy says, not arguing, just don't get why people think we all must agree with certain takes. I don't think we have to agree. I really only speak to my viewpoint based on my conversations with people in the NFL and people connected to the NFL, so that we're having a more grounded conversation with information from the source, right? I don't expect everybody to agree, and in fact, I think most of what I do with this show is built around disruption, and usually with disruption, it takes a good long time for people to buy what you're selling. So I'm prepared for it, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna be consistent with it. I'm cool with it. I don't need everybody to agree. I think everything that we've been saying on this show speaks for itself when we watch the games. And well, I shouldn't say everything. I have to get out of that habit of saying always and everything. I think most of the main points that we've stood on 10 toes down on this show have shown themselves to be true in the games. And if somebody wants to talk about that, we can talk about that after the show in the Discord chat or wherever you want to find me. But I'm not gonna fight people to agree. I mean, we're either the Post Podium podcast is either for you or it's not. Steve, once again, we see. Oh, okay, all right. So it sounds like Steve is talking to Tommy here, because Steve is saying data, results, and reality are hard to face. You may not like it; it may go against your hopes, but still undeniable. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Do your job, just simplify it. Unless you're saying do your job just to simplify it. I hope you're saying do your job, just simplify it. That would fit more in line with what I think should happen. Like, everybody do your job, just make it easier on yourself. Work smarter, not harder. Renaissance says he can't say his piece without throwing thinly veiled insults. Me? Okay. I mean, look, if oh, you're talking about Steve. Okay. Steve. So look, yeah. Oh, okay. I got that after I read all through it. Steve says no need to talk down, just break down the false narrative until the one that holds it folds, cries, and hopefully research the fallacies of their view and the truth of the opposing view. If there's one thing I learned, and I'll end this, I'll end it with this, and we'll get out of here. If there's one thing I learned, right? Like, I'm not about to get preachy when I say this, but I have a relationship with God, right? And when I was in high school, there was a lot of times I used to do what was called peer mediation in high school, where if there were two students that we found out wanted to fight each other or did fight each other or whatever, they would, come down to the R&R room. I don't know what R&R stands for, so don't ask. But they would sit down at a table and I would mediate them. We'd sit there and we'd talk about what the issues were, and we'd try to find common ground, and we would try as much as we possibly could to, see things from the opposing view and try to understand and reach an amicable agreement where there would be peace going forward, and we didn't need to have any further conflict with the person. And my arm doesn't extend far enough, but my success rate was higher than most, right? And I think that was because there was an ability to ask questions and listen before I started assuming who was the aggressor and who was the the person defending themselves. Before I even got to that, just talk to me, tell me what happened. And I wouldn't just listen to what they were saying. I would listen to the word choice that they used. I would listen to how they said it. I would listen to, I would, look at the body language that they were using, right? Because somebody could be sitting there talking about, and I was just defending myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just defending myself and it getting all in my face. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of this says a lot more than I'm just defending myself, especially in the moment, right? So my point in bringing this up is, when it comes to, some of the stuff that I see going on in the chat where people are going back and forth and all that kind of stuff, at the end of the day, we all love the same team. We all want to see the same team win. I will not find myself forcing somebody to believe what I believe. I'll say what I got to say. If you want to debate, we can debate. But once it starts getting to the point of, people feeling insulted, there's responsibility on both sides to make sure that the communication is right. And it can't just be, you said something that insulted me and now I'm going to take offense right? Because the good book I read says we can choose to take offense. That's a choice. We don't have to do it. We don't have to be insulted by something somebody says. And the reason I can say that, and I think the reason why I wanted to take the stance that I take when it comes to the Bills is because I know I have the patience to understand, first and foremost, that part. I can choose to take offense. And the other part is when it comes to the way that I can, the way that I communicate, I can make sure that I take the time to understand where the person is coming from, even if they say something insulting, even if they say something that makes it seem like they know more than me, right? I give you a prime example. There was a network that this show was on, early on, like when we first started, and the communication between me and the person that referred me to their network started off with them, hopping in my comments after the show saying, y'all need to watch more film. Y'all don't know football. Y'all this and that. We start debating back and forth. All of a sudden it turns into an opportunity. Right. But that's because, I of the way that I'm able to listen and communicate and like when we approach the team, we got to understand there's going to be different perspectives. You know what I'm saying? You might not agree with everything I'm saying, but take some time to research first what I'm saying before you just start jumping, on my back about it. That's all I'm saying. To aside said, are these clowns actually pointing out the fact that the Bills can't control their schedule? I don't know. You got to ask them. Bodega Cat said, and I actually agree that Sean McDermott is the equivalent of Mark Jackson, maybe even Tom Coughlin, but it's up to the players to make plays at the end of the day, so I hold them accountable more. Okay. Cool. I will never tell you shouldn't hold anybody accountable because of the fact that you said more. Like that's the part I'm like, thank you for saying more. You know what I'm saying? Because once it starts getting to, well, I'm going to choose to hold the players accountable, not the coach. Convergence of information is not, it's not just the players out there, right? The players are doing what they're asked to do. Which actually reminds me, there's a thing that I saw Trey White do and Christian Benford do the last couple of weeks that bothers me about their third down defense. And this was part of a conversation that I was having with Damaris. The idea of the players doing just what they're asked to do stems from what they're told in terms of their responsibility and how they're coached up to read what's going on during the play. So what I mean is this: the role that Jordan Poyer is serving right now with Cole Bishop is Cole Bishop will get the play and he'll understand that in this particular play, we're playing cover 2. So what'll happen is Cole Bishop will be playing cover 2, and there's, let's say they're playing against a flood route, right? That's designed to bring the corner down and open up space behind the corner and get a play off in front of the safety, right? If I'm Cole Bishop and I'm reading this play and I say to myself, well, my responsibility is just not get beat deep. Don't get that. Coach tells me just don't get beat deep. So in this play cover 2, the corner went up. He created a whole bunch of space. I'm not going to cheat up, even though I see the receiver coming on that flag route, or I'm sorry, not flag out, the streak route there, or I'm sorry, the deep out on that play there, right? And I know that this deep out, it's more likely that the quarterback is going to go there, right? But instead of rushing to that specific route, I'm just going to kind of, cheat over just a little teeny bit and make sure I don't get beat deep. And if the ball goes there, I'll go and make the tackle, right? Where Jordan Poyer comes in is, if you see that out route and you know there's nobody else going behind you, right? Because they're just running a flood on this side, and everything else over there is underneath. Go get that deep out. Go cover that. Go get up underneath it if you can and get the pick. That's where Jordan Poyer is coming in. Is like, yo, you don't have to just do your job and just do what you're told. You can read the play and make a play. You can make something happen. The idea for Jordan Poyer, though, from a coaching standpoint, is to get Bishop to the level where he has the wisdom to understand when to do and when not to do, right? And that's really what it comes down to with the players. And the reason I'm even bringing this up is I saw Trey White on 2 different third down plays last week against the Dolphins playing bail and then sitting and waiting for the breakout, then rushing to the pass. Dude, you know the first down sticks are ahead of you. You're further back than the first. Like it's like you're offering the first down to him, and then when he breaks on that, when he breaks outside with enough yardage for the first down, and the ball is there, just because you meet the guy with the ball at the player doesn't mean you've done your job. You're a tenured player. You've been in this defense for years. You should be able to read that, and especially with how many times you've played this team, get to the ball much faster than it gets there, right? So, what are the 2 options that exist after that? The 2 things that the one thing that it could be is A, he's just trying to do what he's told and not take chances, or he's trying to protect his safeties. He's trying to make sure that I'm not giving anything up because this could be a double move, and I want to bite on it, and then the guy takes off, and then not only am I screwed, but the safety's screwed. So I get it. At the same time, though, a guy like Trey White should have the wisdom by this point to know the difference, and that's not happening. So things like that, yet again, things that can be changed in the way that we coach these players. Hey, Trey, look at this. You can't do this. Yeah, but he ran a double. He ran a double move, last week against whoever. I don't care about all that. You knew the whole game they was going right to the outside, right at the first down. They did it to you once. The second time they ran that on you, you should have been in front of that ball. It's the bottom line, right? So even in that, is the responsibility on the player? Yeah, but there's also responsibility on the coach to let him know, hey, get in front of the ball. What are you doing? Like, that can happen in the game. If you see that again, you better be in front of that ball. It's got to come from everywhere. All right, we got to get out of here. So, look, the best tasting tea in town has been expanding rapidly, right? To the degree, and I'm not, I don't have the script in front of me, right? Key? I don't have it in front of me. But the best tasting tea in town has been expanding rapidly, right? We're in. There's a card game store. I don't remember the name of it right now. We'll get that to you Monday. That is picking up the tea, and then we gave them a case just to test it out, and they had this event where they were playing Spider-Man 2 there, or not Spider-Man 2. It was some new Spider-Man game that came out, or it might have been a DLC or something like that. Where we sent them a case, and they sold out that night. They sold out that night, and they were only there for 5-6 hours, right? Tea is moving at the games, right? There's going to be tea at the Just Pizza stand. Now we got something worked out with them. So if you're going to get some Just Pizza on the way to the stadium, you can ask for some Reese tea. You can get some there. You don't have to go straight to the Reese tea tent. We're doing samples at the tent now too. So if you wanted to, test it out before you buy, feel free. Just know you're going to be hooked. All right. With that being said, let's get to the close. Here we go. All right, I had to let that breathe for a minute. Look, big time news on the way when it comes to the growth of the team. We got some growth on the team. I will let you guys know about that on Monday. Okay. But very, very, very excited for what's going on with the Post Podium Podcast team right now. And that just means there's going to be bigger and better things to come. Let's see if we can get to 41 likes on this video by the time it ends, because we got 41 folk on here right now. Let's see if we can get that. It's free. All you got to do is turn your phone up, scroll up just a little bit, and hit that thumbs up. Also, if you could, maybe subscribe. That's also free, right? But if you wanted to do something that benefits you more, you got to hit that bell. You got to make that thing ring, a-lang. Why? How you gonna know if we on? I'm almost at random now. We on almost every day. I think Thursday's the only day we ain't got no content. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing something on Tuesdays. The biggest news, aside from the Max Hairston thing, is Coach D's Corner will be back next Wednesday, baby. Next Wednesday, we will be reviewing the film from the Saints game, and we'll do it live. So, if you if you want to check that out, we will be doing that at 7:30 on Wednesday, right? I will, put out the thumbnail, all that kind of stuff like I usually do, and you won't know about that unless you got your bell on. So that's yet another reason to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, make it ring-a-lang-a-lang, so that you can get those types of notifications. Again, we got plenty of other stuff to be very excited about. I just got another jersey in that I'm gonna try to get Keon Coleman to sign before I put that up for a contest. We still have the Taron Johnson jersey that we got to give away. So I'm thinking about changing that because the rate that we're moving at with subscriptions, it might be a while before I give that jersey away in that sweepstakes there. So I might think of some sort of game or something like that that you guys can play to win it. And then I got a Coleman. I got a sign. Well, I'm gonna try to get a sign. I got a Coleman rivalry jersey. So we'll work on those, and we'll go from there. So other than that, I think that's everything. Is that everything, Keith? Okay. All right. That's everything. So, this has been the Post Podium Podcast, home of the all truth, no sodium takes. I have been your co-host, Aramis. And we will be back with you on Monday, 5:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. Okay. 5:30 p.m. We will be here. These ain't got to work. So we may go a little bit later. I may try and eat dinner that way. I ain't got to worry about getting home for that. So we can, stay with you guys for, 2.5, 3 hours, something like that. Other than that, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night. Enjoy y'all weekend. Go Bills. We're going to win this game on Sunday. Let's just see how we do it. All right? Peace.